I'm not going to say that Terrorsaur's like charged up voice necessarily does it for me, but what I am going to say is that they're on the right track.
I feel like that's a minor jab at something I may have said last podcast. So you can see how some people might find his voice attractive, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Sexy Terrorsaur goes, "Fuck yeah, time to go kick Megatron's ass."
Too much energy.
What is up, listeners? Welcome to the weekly podcast, Too Much Energon, the podcast you come to for all your Beast Wars needs. In Too Much Energon, we review every single episode of Beast Wars in production order, starting from the first and making our way all the way up to 52 episodes. I am one of your hosts, NeoCal.
I'm yet another host, Christopher Siege.
With our powers combined, we are Too Much Energon. That's good enough for me. I had a 2020 moment today.
Oh, really?
Which you were the victim of. I was like, oh wow, yeah, I'm gonna go for a shower, and I checked my phone, and I'm like, what? Today's recording day? Uh-oh.
Shit. Yeah, that's I completely understand, 2020 being what it is and yada yada. For me, it's a lot easier because, as I mentioned on the pod, I work at a grocery store. Thus, my work has not terribly been impacted by, 2020. And my work week is Sunday to Thursday. So when I get off work Thursday, I'm like, yay, it's my weekend. I'm going to go do some bullshit for a few hours and then record a podcast.
Woo!
Woo!
Speaking of bullshit.
Yeah, speaking of bullshit, we here at Too Much Energon HQ got our first email.
We sure did. Yeah. I'm a little bit amazed and perplexed, but do go on.
Yes, so it's our first email. I was really hoping our first email would be a positive one, or at least be from an actual listener. So the email that we got came in from Robert. And just to give a little bit of context, on our last episode, episode 7, Double Jeopardy, fantastic episode. Both of the podcast itself and of Beast Wars. So I ran a Facebook ad campaign to promote that episode. Maybe get some new listeners, get some more downloads, and it did work. The gains were pretty modest, but
some decent gains, gains, but not Robert.
But no, not Robert.
He would have none of it.
But not Robert. So Robert left a pretty rude message on the Facebook page, which I was like, whatever. I just deleted. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I first saw it, I was
disheartening.
I was kind of like, oh, well, this thing that is a labor of love for us, someone didn't respond to well, and and felt the need to lash out about that. That kind of hurts a little bit. But then after about maybe three seconds, I was like, no, wait, this guy's just an asshole. So I deleted the guy's message and carried on with my day. And then about maybe 3 or 4 hours later, he decided to email the podcast.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he emailed the podcast, and I committed what he emailed to memory. And so I'm going to...
Was it an articulate critique of our beasties knowledge?
He was definitely exercising some critical thinking, I gotta say. It was like something straight out of a 4th year university English class, I gotta tell you. So what he said in his email, what Robert, Bobo, henceforth be known as, Bobo said in caps lock, irrelevant, bullshit, as 2 words, on my FB news feed, also as 2 words, ellipsis, get lost, in caps lock, ellipsis, loser. 3 exclamation marks. Wow.
Okay,
There's a lot to unpack there, right?
There's a lot to unpack there, and I just want to know how many hours of this guy's day he dedicates to personally emailing the advertisers. There are many ads on Facebook if anyone has ever used it. How many hours of the day does this guy spend emailing like Wish, right? Or Amazon?
Emailing Wish for all of their like bizarre like sex toy ads.
Yeah. Sometimes the ads I get on Wish are just so entertaining. I screenshot them and share them with people. Like I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Is this like plastic like cat mittens? Like what am I looking at here? And then other times, go ahead.
I got a random ad a little while ago because I turned off all ad tracking on Facebook a while back. I got a random ad that was supposedly from like the Royal Canadian Mint, which for non-Canadians is like they basically make collectible coins. But this was a golden top, like a spinning top,
Oh,
made of gold, that was apparently made by the Royal Canadian Mint. That was the most random ad I've ever received in my life.
But
as far as Wish ads go, it will be like, you know how you can take your thumb and like swipe left and
you can like look at some of them.
Yeah, you can look at some of them. And like one will be leggings, like women's workout leggings. Another will be a weird like sex toy looking thing. And then another will be like a knockoff Super Nintendo controller.
Yeah, you summarized Wish like in a single sentence there. Like cheap ass leggings, something that may or may not be a sex toy, and then like knockoff video game hardware.
Mm-hmm. So back to Bobo. What I find interesting about this is that I mean, first off, the guy seems to think that I have some sort of personal control over him receiving that ad, like that. Like him getting this ad was like some sort of personal attack against him.
That's weird. This means that he had to go on the Facebook page, go into the About section, look at the email, copy that, go into his email, paste it into the To section, and then write that out. But we don't control where Facebook sends that. So like I said, I can't imagine how tasking this man's day is, for the fact that he like personally goes out of his way to like personally email like the advertisers that he doesn't like. I mean, like did he email Facebook as well?
Who could say? I mean, he definitely did not CC them in the email that he sent me.
His grasp of the English language is awe-inspiring.
Questionable at best. So it was a very baffling experience, but I you know, Bobo, I do want to say thank you very much for
not listening
for your email. Thank you for putting forth the effort of investigating the Facebook page enough to find our contact info. The clicks are appreciated.
Thank you for interacting with the Facebook page.
Yeah, like you are inadvertently helping us out. So
I never thought about that, but it is.
Once again, thank you very much, Bobo, and also, you know, fuck you. Anyway, on to a more positive note.
He lives a very like exhausting day-to-day life, I imagine.
He lives the Bobo life, I gotta say.
The Bobo life.
The Bobo life.
Oh, but we got the good news to follow that weird news.
Yes. On to more positive news. You may notice that we have new show art.
We certainly do. I'm pretty stoked for it.
This was an art piece that I conceptualized, that I commissioned from a very talented artist that is a friend of my partner's. For anyone who hasn't picked up on it, if you've seen the artwork, everything in the art is related to a joke that has been made on the podcast thus far.
It's a pretty good concept. I actually have to like admit, like putting all that together is many a beasties meme.
Yeah, me riding Rhinox in a YTV shirt, wielding Dinobots drill rapier. you on a terror board with eye lasers and an uh-oh shirt.
I'm so happy with that.
Okay, so the uh-oh shirt, I have to give props to the artist because that was not me at all. She obviously listened to the first episode of the podcast where we talked about uh-oh, and you specifically brought up uh-oh.
Yeah, there's no other way.
There's no other way she could have come up with that. So thank you to her for that.
It looks really rad. Thank you.
It does. And in the background, we see Dinobots sailing across the air due to
Really well done.
Due to Scorponok's cross-country missile.
I'm amazed at the level of detail, but how they were still able to keep it really like clean and sharp.
Yeah, even on like Dinobot way off in the background, like it looks great.
Good line work. It's good colors.
yeah, it's a lovely piece of art. The artist's name is Morgana. You can find her on Instagram at Morgana Mixed Media.
I'm gonna go creep her.
So if you check
go
out...
creep her. Also, she was fast and she gave Christopher exactly what he wanted. So
yeah,
there you go, folks.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, I'm kind of looking for a style that is reminiscent of the Clerks cartoon, and that's exactly what she gave me. I couldn't be happier. I will undoubtedly commission artwork from her again in the future for this or potential other podcasts to come in the near future.
Ho-ho.
This week's episode of Too Much Energon is about...
It's about a power surge.
It is about a power surge. I loved this episode when I was a kid. So the episode is called Power Surge. It is the 8th episode in production order, and it was the 6th in U.S. broadcast order. Canadian broadcast order, I think it might have been around like 5, but I don't even fucking remember at this point.
I love this episode as an adult.
Well, I know you're a fan of Terrorsaur, and this is definitely a Terrorsaur-centric episode.
It sure is. Also, wow, like you could see it slowly, episode to episode, but this episode especially, the animators are showing off now. Like there's the faces, the little gestures all of them make, the combat between them, like they're getting good.
Yeah, the animation quality, and this is something I didn't really notice when I was 11, obviously, but like the animation quality is has improved vastly in the past like 8 weeks.
I can't believe this was 96. Like
at times, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, Canada's known for its animation.
Mm-hmm.
Its animators. All the way back to you remember the Cat Came Back?
Like
the
Fred
Cat Came Back? Yeah.
I actually used to have that album on cassette tape back in
Really?
92. And let me tell you, guess we're going off on a tangent here. Quick little tangent, but how I got that tape was buying cereal boxes. If you collected, there was this promo this was back in like 1992, I think, 91 or 92. There was this promo through like Kellogg's or General Mills cereals or whatever, but like if you collected UPC codes, proof of purchases for cereal boxes, you would get points, and once you got a certain number of points, you could mail them all in exchange for some kind of reward. But the one that I got the Fred Penner cassette tape of The Cat Came Back.
The very next day?
The very next day. It also had another classic song by Fred Penner on it called Sandwiches.
I vaguely recall that one.
Sandwiches are beautiful. Sandwiches are fun. I love sandwiches. I eat them all the time. I almost want to make that the song of the week now.
There we go. Now we have it.
I did have another song of the week in mind, but it might just end up being fucking Sandwiches.
If you're not from Canada, listeners, we probably sound a little bit insanesy right now. but
so for you Canadian... 3 Turkish listeners out there.
But Canadian animation was often kind of inserted into our like television broadcasts throughout both songs and animation. Another one was the what was it? The log drivers waltz. That one's burned into my head forever. And if you want to look at like old classic, really interesting like animation and song, yeah, look up like The Cat Came Back or the Log Drivers Waltz. And yeah, we grew up on on that. And
The
they're
the
still
log
interesting.
driver, the log driver is like classic Canadiana.
Yeah, very. And it gets stuck in my head sometimes randomly. I'll just be like driving or I'll just be like playing a video game or reading
You'll
and I'll
just
just
be
hear
driving logs.
dancing on them, perhaps a waltz. Burling down and down white waters. Yeah, it'll just
Oh,
pop up in my
Whitewater.
head. I think it's white waters, yeah.
Okay.
And that makes sense, right? The rapids and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just a generic 90s podcast now.
I think eventually when we're done with this podcast, in a year's time, we probably should just transition into just 90s shit in general.
You know what? That would be an interesting one. And I say interesting because that's something that I would even listen to. Like if a whole episode was like video and arcade top 10, boom. Or a
Oh,
whole
hell yeah.
episode was on Uh-Oh. Or a whole episode was on like Rocco's Modern Life or like whichever.
The
Yeah,
Incredible
I'd be
Crash
down for
Test Dummies.
that. Oh geez, what else? It could be like anything. Like it could be music one week, it could be
Toxic Crusaders.
Wow, Toxic Crusaders.
Which is something. Okay, so Toxic Crusaders was a cartoon that I think aired in like 1992, and it had a toy line and everything. And it was it was a children's cartoon based on the not children's film, The Toxic Avenger. I remember this show and its toy line fucking vividly. But I looked it up a few years ago. The show lasted 6 episodes.
Oh.
So I remember this show like super vividly for whatever reason, but it lasted like a fucking month and a half and then was just canceled. Like, figure that out.
Yeah, that's what really? It's weird that I remember it. I remember the toys too.
Yeah.
But 6 episodes, huh?
I remember
Wow.
one of them was like Major Disaster. It was like a dude who wore like an army helmet and was like made of dirt or something like that. Another one was like this blue guy
barely remember it.
who had, I think his name was Snots. He had like a giant nose.
It was kind of like weird because a lot of 90s cartoons, it almost feels opposite. Like you had very busy looking things like Toxic Crusaders and Avengers.
Toxic Crusaders.
Crusaders, yeah.
It's a spin-off. It's an animated version of the movie, The Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. And but then you look at other stuff like the animated stuff like Beast Wars or Reboot. But then also like really, I don't know how to describe it, clean animation with less like bumpy lines and like attractive characters, such as like Sailor Moon, which wasn't North American or Canadian, but was still on TV, or Captain Planet, right? Where, the characters are supposed to be like normal teenagers.
Or the 90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think cartoons with like unattractive characters with like gross stuff, I think those are geared towards boys.
Well, if you remember,
very positive.
Well, if you remember too, like that kind of like gross out shit was kind of popular with kids shows in the 90s. Like there was.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to bring up. There was like a little bit of both. There's like the clean, like attractive things like Captain Planet, but then gross ass shit like Toxic Crusaders. Sorry, you were gonna say there was also.
Oh, like like you can't do that on television. Like if you said the wrong word, you would get slime dumped on you. And then there was like shows like Uh-Oh and et cetera.
Yeah, there was something about like slime being synonymous with the 90s.
Well, and like in the 80s, everything was fucking toxic waste. Like that was how everything either got fucked up or got superpowers. It was always toxic waste.
It was always toxic waste.
Even RoboCop has toxic waste in it.
RoboCop. Do you remember there was like a live action show where a girl got toxic waste dumped on her and she had like psychic powers? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Are you maybe thinking The Secret Life of Alex Mack?
The Secret Life of Alex Mack. Yeah, that's what it is.
I don't know how I pulled that from what you said, but
I threw it out there and I was like, Christopher's gonna know. Yeah. Girl that gets hit, but she gets hit by some sort of like chemical or toxic waste at the beginning. That's how that starts.
Yeah. You've seen Kung Fury, right?
I have.
I love how the fact that he gets his powers by being struck by lightning and being bitten by a rattlesnake simultaneously.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh, wow. I completely forgot that.
Yeah.
It has a lot of moments in it.
And
I forgot most of them.
I've seen it so many times. I love that movie.
Yeah, that was the one that was.
It's more of a short. It's only about a half hour.
That was the one that was like crowd funded, and then they released it for free, right?
I backed it on Kickstarter, and then I bought.
Yeah,
and then I bought it digitally anyway.
Oh, good.
And now they're making a sequel.
Good.
Yeah,
sometimes people. Speaking of this episode.
This is a Beast Wars podcast. So Power Surge, the episode where Terrorsaur becomes a drug addict, basically.
Yeah, literally. It starts with him flying.
It starts with a bird.
That's right.
Yeah, it starts with a bird flying. We find out this episode is written by Larry DiTio.
Good job, Larry DiTio.
I want to bring him up real quick. He is no longer with us, but he was a fairly prolific writer on children's programming in the 80s and 90s. He was a lead writer on He-Man and actually wrote more episodes of that show himself than anyone else in the writing team. He created the show Bible, which for those who don't know what that is, it's basically a book that kind of just outlines what a season of a show is going to be about and like who the characters are and yada yada. But he created the show Bible for She-Ra, Princess of Power. He wrote on several episodes of Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, which is a show not a lot of people remember, but I loved when I was younger.
I can't even recall it.
It was a live action show that only aired for one season from 87 to 88. Yeah, well, it was a live action show, but actually also utilized a lot of CGI. Which CGI in a show in 1987, you're like, what? Especially a kid's show.
What?
What? The CGI is particularly dated by today's standards, but it had a toy line that accompanied it that had these vehicles that would have these light sensors built into them. And so you could hold these like all of the ships had like a little handle so you could hold them underneath.
Okay.
And so basically you would the show would through a CRT television would flash like certain lights and you would have to holding the ship, you would have to move it around to try and dodge the lights. Kind of like a reverse of the NES Zapper.
It was intricate.
It was a fun concept. The show was actually pretty dark for a kid's show. It's one of the reasons why it got canceled was because parents were all up in arms over it. But it was actually created by J. Michael Straczynski, who would later go on to create Babylon 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Larry DiTio also wrote for The Real Ghostbusters, Peter Pan.
Oh, The Real Ghostbusters. That was my jam.
Peter Pan and the Pirates. I don't know if you remember that show or not from the early 90s. But
vague.
It was on Fox Kids. I remember seeing commercials for it more than I remember actually watching it.
Yeah, that's probably why I have memories of it. So yeah, thank you, DiTio.
And he wrote several episodes of Beast Wars.
And this was one of them.
he unfortunately died early, about a year and a half ago, of Parkinson's disease. So may he rest in peace.
Yeah, and thanks for the good Beast Wars episodes.
So we open with a bird flying through the air.
We do, and as its peaceful, majestic flight is shown to the viewer across the screen, a disgusting screech is heard, and Terrorsaur swoops in.
And just fucking eats it.
Yeah, he's like crunching with his like beak, and feathers are flying out of his mouth, and he makes a disgusting caw sound, and then he sees something in the distance.
And then he looks at the camera and breaks the fourth wall and is all like, "It's good to be a Predacon."
Oh, right. I always ignore the fourth wall breaking moments, but they're everywhere. I don't know how I ignore them.
I ignored them.
I assume they just talk to themselves. But yeah, he looks at the camera and says, "It's good to be a Predacon."
I ignored them when I was a child. I cannot ignore them as an adult.
But in the distance, he sees something and he goes, "Wah!"
And off in the distance, he sees a floating mountain.
So we have a floating mountain, and he investigates.
So he flies over and is all like, "Mighty Inferno."
And
which I guess is like, this week's episode's way of a Predacon being like, holy shit.
Yeah. Or like, what the hell?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And then he
guess why it's floating, everyone?
he looks down and he's all like, Energon, because he sees a giant ass cluster of Energon crystals.
Yeah, this mountain's like half crystal.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And he comments that it's enough to power an army. He is all like, I have to chance a scan. So he terrorizes and immediately lands on the ground and immediately starts shorting out.
Yeah. Is there a little voice that tells him to go back to beast mode?
Oh, yes. His internal computer is basically like danger, energon surge, stasis lock, imminent. Transform immediately.
And he's like, yeah. And I don't really know what he does. Does he actually scan something? No, he goes to take a sample?
No, he straight up tries to grab a crystal to like break a chunk of it off.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I got a chance to scan. I didn't realize that meant like physically like just manhandling it and breaking a chunk off.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, okay, like I don't know how your technology works, dude, but sure.
I thought like, like some he was going to scan something or
pull out like a tricorder, like a Star Trek type tricorder.
And like take some readings or something. Nope. He's just going to grab the crystal.
That's the Predacon way.
And that's how he gets the juice.
Yeah, so it shocks him back and he ends up in this like Vitruvian man type pose.
Yeah, he kind of like tries to fight it and he's scared, and
the Energon is like seemingly electrocuting him or something. But he had been shorting out prior to this, and his, I don't know, like shorting out visual cue that every Transformer has in this show whenever they're exposed to too much Energon. It's usually got this
glowing.
Yeah, it's usually got this like blue, like
electricity goes over their body.
Yeah. It's got this blue hue to it. But while Terrorsaur is getting jacked from the Energon, it changes color from blue to red.
Dun dun. Yeah, so he's getting like electrocuted by red Energon lightning now, and he's juicing. He's getting jacked.
Yeah, and his voice gets a lot deeper and more menacing sounding.
He's like, "Whoa, I feel sweet.
And
time to go kick some ass."
And more growly. He's all like, yes. The Energon charge must have overloaded my superstructure.
Oh, right.
I can feel, he says something along the lines of like, I can feel the Energon coursing within me. And he's like, I've never felt such power. And then he raises his arms and the camera pans around and is like, I am invincible. Ha 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 ha. And then he lowers his fist and is like, Megatron. And like, that's his first, like, as soon as he gets like all juiced up, his first thought immediately is Megatron. Fuck that guy.
His first and last thought before he goes to bed and when he wakes up is Megatron. Goes to bed kind of like angry fapping, oh, stupid Megatron with your big arms and your sexy voice.
Cheers.
Calling me pathetic.
He's just like whispering yes to himself over and over again.
Anyways, sexy Terrorsaur, jacked Terrorsaur takes off.
Yeah, and suddenly
And
he now
super
has
fast. He's got like
suddenly-
what, red rockets?
Yeah, he suddenly now has like jet thrusters in his back.
Yeah, like crazy, like fiery jet thrusters.
Like he's about to launch into orbit or something. So he speeds off the mountain.
Takes off at Mach 1 and he flies by a cheetah.
Yes, not just any cheetah, a Cheetor.
A
And
robot in disguise!
and Cheetor is all like, "Ah,
Whoa! Something cat, man!
some kind of Cheetor bullshit. I better tell Optimus."
Yeah. Then there's like a commercial cut and we do we go back to
We cut
the
back
Axelon or do we go to the dark side?
the Predacon base, yes, the dark side. So
Yeah,
we're back
the
at
dark side.
the dark side, and Megatron is demonstrating this new automated defense system that he has developed. So this seemingly, I would assume, is in response to last week's episode where the
When they got their ass kicked by the
when they got- when
invading
they got-
Maximals.
when they got their ass kicked by the invading Maximals and had seemingly had no short range defensive weapons on their ship.
Yeah, it's like a little floaty kind of like pod. And correct me if I'm wrong. He says something, or elaborate. He says something like, "I've programmed this drone or pod to their pod's energy signature to resemble that of a Maximal."
Yes,
yeah,
that's what he
essentially.
did.
And then he kind of gestures, and it flies, like it kind of like hovers and goes away from the group. They're kind of on a cliff here, away from the base, curiously
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And a gun, like a mounted like gun, is it just on a rock, by the way? I think it's just like they just have this like mounted gun like off in a mountain somewhere.
Yeah, it's like on a rock. And
yeah. I'm like,
it-
how's it powered?
It's essentially just lying down. And then when the drone that is programmed with the maximal frequency shows up or gets within range, the gun kind of wakes up and raises up and then shoots at it.
Yeah.
But yes, how is it powered? Who knows?
Uh,
I mean, there is energon everywhere on this planet, apparently.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's an interesting like arms competition because we do see that the Axelon has a bunch of automated guns, but if you recall, the guns have no friend or foe recognition. Like they have to be on or off, and they fire at everything that moves. They're specifically motion. Do you remember the whole scene with like Tarantulas and Scorponok like not moving?
Yeah.
And then later on
Scorponok and
that
his,
same
like just like absurd trembling.
and later in the episode, when Optimus flies off, he says, wait 30 seconds and reactivate the defense system. So that signifies that, hey, like we need to deactivate this when we leave and come back because our guns will fire on us.
Yeah.
So now finally the Predacons are now a step above them and they don't need to worry about turning them on or off. They just fire at Maximals.
Mm-hmm.
However, does that mean if you wave your hand over your little symbol and
Like
and
Ratchet
become a-
did last week.
yeah, and become a quote like Predacon, is that cool? Or do they have fundamentally different cores? Like, is Dinobot's core Predacon and it wouldn't shoot him? I wonder.
But then Black Arachnia, who was originally a Maximal protoform, but then was reprogrammed
Would it
into a
shoot her?
Predacon. Would it shoot her?
All these
knows?
questions and more that won't be answered on Too Much Energon. It's just little
Or
things
on
that
Beast
pop up
Wars,
in my
period.
head, or even on the show Beast Wars.
Uh,
But if you're a Maximal, it shoots you. If you're a Predacon, it doesn't. Is the gist of it. I
And if
always
you're-
think about these small little details.
and if you're an 11-year-old boy in 1996,
You don't care or remember.
you probably didn't think of any of this.
No.
So Megatron is all like, with a few more of these installed, referring to the autocannon, this place will become a death trap for the Maximals, or something like that.
Yep.
And then Terrorsaur...
And they all clap, and Scorponok goes, "Well, you're so smart, Megatron." And then does Terrorsaur...
I want to be just like you when I grow up, Megatron.
And then he's like, good going, Dad. And Megatron goes like, "I told you not to call me that in public."
Oh my, that is hilarious that you say that, because that actually kind of comes up.
Are you fucking serious?
Not relating to Scorponok, but like, I'm not gonna spoil it too much, but like, there's another character who refers to Megatron by something that he doesn't like, and there's one moment where or actually a few moments where he's like, I do wish he would stop calling me that.
Huh. I look forward to it.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Is this when like the Juice shows up?
The Juice. Yeah, so the Juice swoops in.
Sorry, OJ Simpson does not show up.
Yeah, so
Terrorsaur shows up.
I was just about to say he was already in jail at this point, but then I'm like, oh no, wait, he was acquitted.
Yeah. If the glove does not fit something, you must let him go. Just like that, right?
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh wait, yeah, that's
a thing.
But
don't worry, everybody gets theirs. Anyways,
he did eventually.
Yep.
So the Juice shows up.
The Juice shows up. And he's like, "Sup, Megatron? Whip out your dick. Compare it with me right now." And Megatron is like, "Oh, if you insist, yes."
So basically, they are Hollywood film directors McG and Michael Bay in this moment. So for listeners, back in 2009, around the time Terminator Salvation came out, that featured giant robot Terminators for some reason. And that reason is because Transformers movies, live action films, were really popular at that point.
Yeah.
Those times.
In those days.
Michael Bay criticized McG for kind of aping the way that he specifically shot giant robots in film. And so McG, in an interview, and I share, like, this exists, I actually shared an article about this on Facebook not too long ago. McG challenged Michael Bay to a dick measuring contest. Part of me wishes I was making that up, but also part of me thinks it's kind of amazing and just how, like, wacky it is.
Well, who had the bigger wiener?
Tune in next week on Too Much Energon to find out.
So Terrorsaur lands and he's like, "Sup, bitch?
Yeah,
I'm gonna make you suck my dick."
Yeah, he's basically just like, yeah, just the kind of stupid plan that someone like you would come up with, Megatron.
Yeah, and that's why criticizes his plan.
And that's why I'm taking over. And Megatron is all like, Terrorsaur, I thought you had learned your lesson about challenging me.
Right?
Which is what he did last week. So we're starting to actually see the difference between production order versus broadcast order now.
Yep.
Because this episode in broadcast order aired originally. So when you were watching this in 96, or even watching it according to broadcast order, which it is on Tubi and even on my DVD box set that I have, you're like, if you were watching it just purely in that order, you're like, okay, wait, okay, so did Terrorsaur challenge Megatron's leadership at some point before? Because we've only seen Dinobot do that.
Yeah, and you probably wonder, is he like referencing something back on Cybertron? Nope. Just the production order is different.
Yeah. It's just a thing the Terrorsaur just did last week.
And in a very perplexing move, probably because he was directly challenged, but in a very perplexing move, Megatron accepts and duels him.
Yes, and what he says, and I love this, Megatron is like, "Oh, what the hell?" He doesn't say what the hell, but he's basically like, "Oh, what the hell? Yes, I could use some amusement."
Yep.
And then he terrorizes and then shoots at Terrorsaur, and Terrorsaur.
What does he shoot at Terrorsaur? Because
I think he also has shoulder cannons too.
Yeah.
Which I think is
Hold
what he
up.
shoots.
Yeah, I was like, wait, he doesn't shoot him with his purple laser. Shoots him with shoulder cannons or something, and I'm like, huh, everybody's got these nowadays.
Maybe it's his tail thing.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Regardless, he shoots two. Are they missiles or are they?
It's his hip launchers, right?
He's what?
I just referred to the episode.
Hip
there.
Launchers.
Yes, these were actually.
Why I didn't remember.
Yeah, he has these two circular purple plates on both of his hips that have missiles in them. Apparently, I actually used to have the toy of Megatron. These circular plates on the toy did have these little missiles where you could press a button and they would launch out, as with so many toys.
Motherfucker's got missiles. So he's been waiting this many episodes to reveal that he can shoot missiles.
He has been waiting 8 weeks to show us those fucking hip missiles.
So he thrusts his missiles right in Terrorsaur's face. And they explode all over him, and Terrorsaur cackles in delight, and he's seemingly not even hurt. And you like that?
Just the phrasing you chose, the phrasing you used through that entire sentence. I'm like, wow.
What about it?
So
anyways, so it explodes all over Terrorsaur's face, and he just comes out of it completely unhurt. And what does he say? Does he say something smarmy?
Yes. What he says is that he laughs and he's like, "That was amusing, but not as funny as this." And then
he whips out it's not like his normal gun. His normal gun has changed too.
No, now
and it's
now he has
sci-fi rifle.
Now he has a straight up Terminator weapon.
Yeah, it's got a little ACOG, aperture sight on it.
Yeah.
And holy shit, he just shoots the fuck out of Megatron.
Yes, he really does.
Just shoots repeatedly, and chunks of him fly off.
Yeah. And Megatron eventually sails off the side of the cliff, and he's falling down, and parts of him are breaking away
as he's hitting the cliffside, falling further and further down. Parts of him are breaking off.
Yeah.
And he's yelling, and this is what I mean by the animators are showing off now. Wow, so much chunks come off of him when Terrorsaur is giving him the big gun, and as he's falling down the mountain, more chunks are flying off, and you're I'm thinking, my partner said to me, she was like, is he fucking dead?
Right? He is he is really fucked up.
He's probably dead before he hits the ground, but when he does hit the ground, a rock slab.
Yeah, all of his limbs have been severed. He's straight up got wires sticking out. The lights of his eyes go out. Motherfucker.
The red lights in his eyes fade out.
Yeah,
motherfucker's dead.
Yeah.
Wow. And the other Predacons, are they all bugs?
Yeah. Scorponok, Waspinator, and Tarantulas.
The bugs look over the edge and they're like, holy shit.
Yeah, and Scorponok is all like, Megatron?
Megatron? Are you okay? If you're okay, say nothing.
And then Terrorsaur is all like,
Terrorsaur has never had that much power.
No, he sounds more like,
Terrorsaur's never had that much power.
It's something between Christopher and I's impression, I assure you.
Motherfucker.
And then what does he
And
say? Does anyone
and
else challenge me?
and Waspinator is all like, Waspinator does not believe it.
And Terrorsaur like wags his giant gun around, and he's like, "Anybody else? I don't know. Anybody else have anything to say, or does
Yeah,
anyone?
he's like, yeah, he says something along the lines of
Does
like,
anyone contest?"
Megatron. He's like, Megatron is scrap. Yes, he actually says yes.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he's all like, Megatron is scrap. Yes, I am your leader now. Would anyone else like to challenge this or something along those lines?
Yep. And they definitely say no.
Yeah, they're all like,
They shake their little animal heads.
yeah, they're all like shaking their heads and being like, no, not me. No.
And this is when he starts short circuiting.
Not quite.
Oh no.
Terrorsaur is like, good.
Oh right.
Then charge yourselves for battle. We attack the maximal base. And I think we have a commercial break here. Then we come back and Terrorsaur is like, here are my orders. Waspinator and I. And then he starts shorting out.
Right.
And his voice goes back to normal.
And yeah, and he's like, I have some matters to attend to. Tarantulas, you're in charge until my return. And
Well,
he runs and jumps off the edge.
Tarantulas immediately is all like, is something wrong, Terrorsaur?
Yeah, he's
rubbing his little like spider, yeah,
bits.
Whatever they are.
He's rubbing his bits in glee, and he's like, is something wrong? And he's like, I have matters to attend to. Tarantulas, you're in charge until I get back. And he goes beast mode mid-air and flies off.
And then in my favorite moment in this episode, the remaining Predacons kind of walk over and watch Terrorsaur fly away. And Scorponok says to Tarantulas, he's like, what do you mean you command? I'm second in command.
I'm second in command.
And then Tarantulas is just like, no command. And
then he just fucks off.
Yeah, and then kind of like throws his like little mandibles up and then just turns around and leaves.
Yeah, so command. And then he leaves, so there's literally only Waspinator and Scorponok there.
Yeah. And then Waspinator is like, well, and Scorponok's
like, well, what?
If you're second in command, what is your command?
And then there's like an awkward silence.
Yeah.
And eventually he kind of like scuttles over to the edge and looks down at Megatron. And he says something along the lines of, return to base and activate the... Oh, shoot. What are the pools called again? The recovery pools and activate the...
What he refers to as in this episode is the restoration module.
Module.
It will never be called that again.
So he says, return to base and activate the restoration module. And what does he say? We must return our true leader?
We must salvage our true leader.
Yeah. We must return Daddy. Megatron. And yep. Then it like cuts away. I think what does it do? Jump to the Axelon?
Yeah, we're back at the maximal base. And Cheetor shows up and is all like just like derping around everywhere. Like,
he's
coming
running
in top speed. Which I'm immediately wondering. I'm like, how did he get into the ship? Because so far,
exactly.
So far, all we've seen before, like the only way of leaving or entering the ship is that little elevator panel, which is on the bridge.
It's on the bridge, and it joins Optimus and the others or a couple of the others on the bridge.
Yeah.
Right? But it shows Cheetor, like you said, running from the opposite side of the ship, like down hallways, like slipping and sliding because he's moving so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Looking very much like a cat, I will say.
Yeah, they did a good job animating a cat running down a hallway. And I'm like, how did he get in?
Yeah. Where's Cheetor coming from here?
that presumes there's two. Again, things only people in their 30s will notice about a cartoon meant for 10-year-olds. But
Yep.
the answer isn't that there's another entrance. The answer is that they wanted to animate a cat slip sliding around. Yeah. And he slides into the console room. Just like a cat, he knocks over people's like cups of coffee and papers. And he says, I didn't write it down. I didn't write any of the episode down. I did watch it almost twice, though. But what he says is a bunch of gobbledygook, like
yeah, so
verbal dyslexia.
Yeah,
makes his, like, words up.
verbal dyslexia is the perfect way to describe that. So he says something along the lines of like,
"Oh, Christopher,
Megatron,
we missed a tiny little scene."
Oh, did we?
Yeah, when it shows all of that with the Predacons, the camera pans out, and it shows Cheetor like spying on them, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta tell Optimus."
Oh, right,
because he knows. Sorry, listeners.
Because he's all like, ultra bad.
Oh, whoa, ultra bad. Cheetor is spying.
Which I gotta say, like, ultra bad is, to me, like...
Sounds like a Scorponok saying?
No, it sounds like dudes in their 30s, like, trying to write something kids would say.
How do you do,
in the
fellow
90s.
kids?
Yeah. Ultra bad.
This is totally unfresh. I mean, that's what it is. It is a bunch of dudes in their late 20s and 30s and probably like 40s, like writing for the show, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, he was spying on the battle between Terrorsaur and Megatron, which is how Cheetor even saw this. And why he's slip sliding around in the Exelon, and he runs up to Megatron and he's like, Megatron, destroy Terrorsaur, crystal, mountain,
pudding. And Optimus is like, calm down, Cheetor, better transform. And Cheetor is just like, right. And then he transforms to robot form. I don't know why that makes things better.
So this is why I think that makes things better.
Okay, fan theory.
I think that their instincts or their minds are more influenced by the animal that they are representing when they're in their beast mode. So that's why when Cheetor's in his beast mode, he's like rebellious and he like wants to run and move fast and like do cat things. And so when they're in their robot form, I think they can kind of like think more clearly, strategize like better. This is just bullshit. This is never proven throughout the show, but that's the only reason I can think of Optimus telling Cheetor this is kind of like, hey, why don't you transform and talk like a Maximal?
I'm not going to like spoil anything, but there may be an episode late in the first season that kind of explores that a little bit.
Touches on their instincts. Okay.
Yeah. The effect that being in beast form has on their psyche.
Oh, okay. So maybe my theory, we'll see. We'll see if my theory is true or not. But yeah, he's all over the place.
We'll get there in about 6 months.
Cool. So yeah, he's all like, pudding, the bad guys blown up, mountain float,
Dunkaroos.
Dunkaroos. They don't taste the same anymore. I swear. and they don't. Those were my jam, and they taste like shit now. Those are my bread and butter, and they are garbage now. Anyways,
I was eating a lot of Dunkaroos around this time, actually.
Me too. Hashtag only 90s kids remember.
Yeah, basically.
So yeah, he's like, whoa, calm down. Transform into your what is he? Does he see robot form?
Yeah, something.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Specifically, transform, and he does, and he's like, oh yeah, Terrorsaur something in a floating island, and
he said, he's like, right, Terrorsaur is leading the Predacons now. They're going to attack our base, and Rhinox is all like, what?
And he's like, yeah, and something about a floating island.
And Optimus is like, what about Megatron? And Cheetor is like, Terrorsaur scrapped him like he was a maintenance bot.
Poor maintenance bot.
And just out of nowhere is like, he must have gotten a massive energon surge or something like that from that floating mountain. And he says it in like such a matter-of-fact way, as though like they would know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, and then it proceeds that they actually don't know what the fuck he's talking
No,
about.
they don't, because Rhinox immediately is like, floating mountain? And Rat Trap's like, good. You got your circuits crossed, kiddo. Mountains don't fly.
And then what does he do? He pushes him, and he's like, not fly, float.
It's true, Optimus. I saw it. Terrorsaur flew away from it faster than I've ever seen him move.
You have to believe me, Dad. Come on, I'm telling the truth this time. And Dadbot is like,
To think of Optimus more as Cheetor's uncle.
The cool uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the alcoholic uncle.
No, the one that's got his shit together.
Yeah.
He's more strict than his dad, so he doesn't like that. But he also has like a convertible and a motorcycle.
And a motorcycle.
And a jetpack.
That he drives at the same time. And a jetpack.
And he is a convertible.
Man, you're blowing my mind right now.
Yeah,
you're just like you're doing good. Gotta say,
I saved my brain juice for this moment, even though I forgot it was. I thought it was like a different day. So they're like, okay, well, show us on this like 3D map that the animators want to show off.
Yeah, so Cheetor is like, it's true, Optimus. I saw it. Terrorsaur flew away from it faster than I've ever seen him move. And Optimus, being the being
the optimist he is.
Yeah, being the cool uncle that he is, he takes his nephew Cheetor's concerns seriously. And he's like, show us on the map where you saw this floating mountain. And Cheetor touches it and he's like, right here. And then we transition to a shot of the actual mountain. And Terrorsaur is in beast form flying toward it. And he's clearly jonesing. Like, he needs his fix.
Yeah. I also noted that he was spotted. Is he always spotted? And I'm just noticing now, or is it because I'm looking for differences and he always had kind of like spots on his back?
He always had spots on his back. I think they're darker in this episode.
They kind of look darker. Hey, that's what juicing does to you kids. Makes you all pimply and shit. It also gives you huge muscles and small balls.
I mean, that's what they say, but
that's what they say. It's only if you do long term.
I can't say I've ever juiced.
Neither have I.
I mean, I've done plenty.
I've juiced with my Ninja blender. Does that count?
That is wholesome juicing right there, good sir.
That's wholesome juicing, yeah. What the heck was that? Oh, there's a 3D map all of a sudden on the console.
Yeah.
So what happens is, this is weird, and I don't really understand it. It shows two little dots with dashes behind them. So it looks like they're tracking two Predacons' movements.
Yeah, they're tracking Terrorsaur and
a mystery thing.
Tarantulas. No, we've already, before we cut over to here, we've already seen.
Oh right, it shows us. Yeah.
Tarantulas is following Terrorsaur, and he's all like, yes, lead me to your secret. Are you there?
And I'm back.
And you're back.
Hey, this is Too Much Energy on a weekly podcast where we
this is take two.
Yeah, so it last thing we talked about was Tarantulas scuttling his mandibles, being like, yes, show me where your secret is, or something like that. All right, so Optimus is showing on like a 3D, like Iron Man-ish kind of like grid on the console, that there's two Predacons moving. And he says, this one must be Terrorsaur, but I'm not sure what this other one energy signature is. And then it suddenly kind of like hits static like a little bit, and they like lose signal.
Okay, so yeah,
what I find
I'm
strange
confused
about that. Go on.
Yeah, so they're tracking these two Predacons, Terrorsaur and
Long
Tarantulas.
distance.
Yeah, long distance. And then the signal gets disrupted, and Rhinox is like, "Oh, the signal is jammed. They must be near a massive. The signal's jammed due to energon interference. They must be near a massive energon source."
Yeah, and I'm
And then
like,
and then Optimus is like, or like a mountain of it, and he types a bunch of stuff up, and then all of a sudden, like a graphic of the floating mountain appears.
so
So
what
it's
he,
like,
so what he, yeah, go ahead.
sorry. So it's like, okay, so the energon interference is so strong that you can't track the Predacons anymore, but you can still create a 3D model of the floating mountain.
Okay, this is so weird. Again, only because we're in our 30s do we even dissect it this much. But what happens is they can no longer track them, and Optimus types some bullshit into the console, and then it has a projection of where those two dots would have gone if they had stayed true to their course. So it shows the projected movement, and he goes, there, they're heading towards this. And then he taps it, like the 3D, like kind of like rendering, and it's just like a very rudimentary, like everything's just like kind of like old, like kind of lawnmower man-esque. And it just shows little dots for like where the Predacon's like projected movement is going to be. And then he's like there, and he like double taps it, and then a fully rendered like 3D model of the floating island, the floating mountain, comes up. And that's when Cheetor's like, see, I told you, or something. And I'm like, what is, I have a lot of, I don't want to get into it too much because again, children's show, but I don't understand why the energon deposit being way the fuck out there, like 100 clicks or wherever it is out in the jungle, is interfering with their computer in the Axelon. Also, how the heck are they able to accurately track them that far when it's been established that they've been having trouble doing just that the entire show? Like, that is a really accurate, like, 3D tracking device, and they've never used it in the entirety of the show. That could have
Yeah.
helped them immensely. They could have been like, oh, we need to go send Dinobot and Optimus reinforcements retrieving the stasis pod because it looks like 3 Predacons are en route as well. So I'm like, when did they have this? Right? So I'm
You're not
like,
wrong.
yeah, I'm not like I'm not happy that, like, if they had just opened the scene with, by the way, we got the Axelon's like long range 3D mapping repaired. Oh, good. I'd be fine with that. So my headcanon is that they just magically made this work and they never had it before. Because wow, is that good to have? Being able to scan that far out. I'm not even going to touch on why it doesn't work, because the area where they're scanning has too much energon. Or how he double tapped the area where they were heading and he suddenly got like a Google Maps 3D rendering of the floating mountain.
Well, and
That
also like
enhance.
rendering scans of like a planet's topography is kind of dependent on having satellites, which
Yeah, so are the stasis pods in orbit around the planet? Like, are they almost like satellites as
do
well?
they function as satellites? Like,
Do they? That's the only thing I could think of.
but I assure you, it is never explained.
So I'm gonna let it go and move past it. And
Until next week,
yeah. And
when something like this inevitably comes up again.
and for some reason, what ends up happening? Yeah, until it inevitably happens again. For some reason, it's just Optimus and Rat Trap that go.
Yeah, Optimus is basically, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's basically just like, Rat Trap, suit up. And Rat Trap's like, why? Or to do what? Oh, no, he tells Rat Trap to prepare demolition charges.
Right.
Rat Trap is like, oh, to do what? And Optimus is like, to destroy that floating mountain before the Predacons secure it.
Mm-hmm.
then Rat Trap is like says something to the camera. I can't remember what it is now. But then we transition back to Terrorsaur flying toward the floating mountain.
Yes.
And he's all like, I need to replenish my power. Like he's coming down from
Yeah,
something.
he's coming down hard.
Yeah.
He's tweaking. Oh, and I
Uh,
think there's a little... is there a weird shot of Tarantulas?
Yeah, Tarantulas is beneath the mountain, and he transforms. Like, he's directly beneath it, and he transforms, and his internal computer is all like, warning, Energon surge, convert back to beast form, stasis lock in 4 cycles.
And he's like, plenty of time for me to do what I need to do, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and he shoots this, like, grappling gun thing.
Oh, yeah. So I was like, how the heck is he going to get up there? Apparently his gun, instead of just shooting like a little missile, it can just shoot that that crossbow like thing right off of the gun, and it's a grappling hook.
Yeah. Fun fact, the Tarantulas toy did that as well.
Oh, it's got a
Yeah.
little grappling hook?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I loved toys with like grappling hook stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah, the in the Tarantulas toy, the missile actually had a string attached to it, so it was functioned kind of like a grappling hook.
Oh, cool.
Obviously, the toyetic version of that.
And this is a hilarious part. He immediately transforms back into a tarantula, or a spider-like thing, and he climbs up the grappling hook rope, and then it cuts to an upward shot. And oh, by the way, this island, it's slowly spinning for the listeners. Yeah, it's slowly spinning. It's not just like stationary floating. It's actually all the rocks underneath it have a different trajectory, but it's a really cool shot because it shows the mountain like slowly spinning, and all the rocks underneath it kind of like having their own little orbit around underneath it.
Oh, that's
the only reason I noticed it, because the island is spinning, but his grappling hook is completely stationary. And it's clipping through the bottom of the floating mountain. And I'm like, hey, shouldn't his grappling hook be moving too? That's way too hard to animate. So that's how I noticed it was spinning.
Interesting. Well, cool.
Yeah, cool.
So we cut away to Optimus in robot form, flying with Rat Trap. With Rat Trap in beast form, just holding on, just on top of him.
And he's like fidgeting and like, yeah.
And he says the line, he's like, "Oh, I don't like this. Man, if I wanted to fly, I would have become a bat, not a rat."
Yeah, interesting that he still would have been a rodent, but he would have been a bat.
Bats aren't rodents.
They're not?
No, they're mammals.
Well, rodents are mammals as well.
I don't know. This came up in a Batman movie.
Oh, okay.
That's entirely what I'm basing this off of.
Probably not. They're probably... I'm probably just getting confused with the word pest, because they do have like diseases and stuff. Yeah. Which apparently COVID is apparently not whatever creature they thought it was. They actually think it's from bats now.
They've been saying that for a while now.
Everything is from bats. Stay away from bats, people.
Fucking bats.
Also, don't eat them.
Worked out for Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, apparently Ozzy, I don't know if anyone listening does not know the famous Ozzy Osbourne moment, but someone threw a bat up on stage one time during one of his performances, and like without hesitation, he grabbed it and bit its fucking head off. Like blood, like it bit its head off. Apparently,
I wonder how much LSD he was on at the time.
And a lot. He had said that he had straight up said that he was high, and he thought it was a toy bat because it wasn't flying or like moving that much.
Yeah.
So he thought it was a toy bat. But I mean, that's a pretty fucking badass thing to do. Not even hesitating and like just fucking bite, like, especially for his image back then. Yeah, he bit a fucking bat head off, people. And as far as I know, he didn't get sick or get rabies. So
Definitely not something you want to do in today's world.
But
Uh,
yeah, Rat
I,
Trap
I,
is afraid of. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna bring up. I find Rat Trap's reference of a bat to Optimus kind of interesting because the original Optimus Primal toy in the Beast Wars toy line during the first wave, Optimus Primal was actually a bat.
When you posted the picture in the
Yes.
Too Much Energon Facebook group and you had flipped that toy over, I noticed there was a bat and it said Optimus.
Yep.
I was like, "What? Wait, hold up. Optimus is a bat?"
So for the listeners, today I went to a local toy store, and I managed to find a carded, boxed, unopened toy. It was a 2-pack of Optimus Primal and Megatron from the very first wave of the Beast Wars action figures. It was the first Beast Wars toy I ever bought back in 1996. But in this 2-pack, Optimus was a bat and Megatron was a crocodile.
Megatron was a crocodile?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the toy line came out sometime before the show, like several months before the show. Yeah, I have no idea why they changed in the show. They changed their forms, but they did. But I've always kind of thought that Rat Trap's line referencing bats to Optimus in this scene, I've always kind of thought that was a
Ah,
subtle little nod
that
to
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah, I could
Interesting.
be looking too much into it, but
I could see Optimus being a bat, but I think a gorilla is a little more fitting because gorillas are like powerful and like, he's a silverback gorilla. It's like the one of the kings of apex predators, right?
mhm.
Whereas a
in
bat isn't really mighty.
Yeah, and in fact, in the follow-up series to this, Beast Machines, there it ends up actually being a Maximal whose alternate form is a bat, and he's not very mighty, I will say.
Yeah. Beast Wars, Transformers. I'm looking at the Christopher has. Um, who is this? Optimus? Bat Optimus? No,
Yeah.
it's both. It's Optimus and Megatron.
Yeah, it's a 2-pack. It also comes with a little mini comic book.
Yeah, come and check us out on the Facebook group. You can actually see some up close pictures Christopher took of his ancient pre TV show Beast Wars.
Yes,
Still
this
in the package,
yeah,
and
this
yeah,
toy that I
cool.
bought today is completely unopened, and it's a toy that was released 24 years ago,
Yeah,
which
it's
I'm just
got
like,
Bat Optimus looks pretty cool in his robot mode.
the thing with they're both like basic sized Beast Wars figures.
Yeah, they're not too detailed, I noticed.
Well, and the thing with the like basic sized Beast Wars figures was the way you would transform them was it was so weird. Like with all of them, you would basically like they were all spring loaded, so you would lift up their tail of their beast form. It would be attached, like there'd be a piece of plastic that would be connected to it, and it would be attached to a spring that would kind of just like snap their robot body, their beast head down, and their robot body down, and then
Right.
they would just be in robot form. There was no like complexity at all to the transformation, so they were actually kind of boring and kind of cheap feeling figures.
Yeah, I can see that. I think, like I said in episode 1 of Too Much Energon, I think I had the Dinobot one because I remember it being pretty basic.
Dinobot was actually a step up from that, a deluxe beast, and though like some of those were actually pretty cool. A lot of them are
Oh, it
pretty
was
hit or miss
definitely
though.
a little bit better than whatever I'm seeing in the Bat Optimus. And but yeah, it wasn't like terrific. It wasn't like toys nowadays. But
Yeah,
it wasn't like very, very complex either.
there were actually some pretty dope figures in the Beast Wars line though, like the in the Mega Beast line, the Scorponok. Scorponok was actually a pretty rad figure.
Hmm.
So was Inferno, a character we have not met yet.
That's who they keep referencing.
In the deluxe, actually in the deluxe line, most of the really cool deluxe figures were of characters that didn't make it onto the show.
Oh, interesting.
Like my two favorites
Hmm.
were one's name was Wolffang, who, as you could probably guess, was a wolf. But he was a really cool deluxe figure. He was actually my favorite
That
when I was a
sounds
kid.
very familiar.
And Cybershark.
Cybershark?
Yeah,
Wow.
Cybershark was a rad deluxe size figure, but again, never made it into the show.
Cybershark sounds rad.
Yeah,
It's like,
look up pictures of the Beast Wars Cybershark figure. Like, he was really cool.
I will.
But yeah, so Optimus and Rat Trap are flying through the air. Rat Trap's all like, "Man, I know you used to be a bat at one time."
Yeah. And this also reveals that Rat Trap really doesn't like heights, like at all.
Yeah,
And
he's
Optimus is kind of like, will you stop? What does he say? Stop squirming.
I think he says,
You're throwing off my.
Will you stop wiggling?
Yeah, will you stop wiggling? I can't remember exactly what he says, but you're affecting the flight. And they fly towards the island, and then Beast.
You're causing some shit.
Dang it! Yeah, you're causing some shit, son. And then Rat Trap looks up, and he says, and he kind of like looks in awe at the floating mountain, and he says, "Oh, I guess I owe the kid an apology, huh?"
Yeah. And so Optimus and Rat Trap land, and Rat Trap immediately dives off of Optimus's back and just kisses the ground.
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah, so he's clearly afraid of height, like very afraid of heights. And Optimus starts shorting out immediately from all of the Energon on this mountain. So he goes back to beast form, and they trek on into the mountain.
Yeah, they trek deeper into the mountain. They go through like a little canyon, and there's Energon shards sticking out. I don't really remember the exchange, but it's not too important. And then I really like it when the Maximals sneak behind like a rocky outcropping. And that's what happens here. They like sneak, and they see Terrorsaur. They see him like coming into the middle of the mountain, which is like where all the huge Energon crystal deposits are, and they kind of like duck down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Terrorsaur like lands, and he juices up again.
Yeah.
I think before it cuts to a commercial break, Rat Trap says something like, I don't know, but he seems like, uh-oh, like.
He says, "This is bad." Which ends up becoming a...
He said that before, too.
Yeah, it becomes a recurring catchphrase.
That's what he says, yeah. And because...
I do want to point out, though, in this sequence that we just passed, like, I feel like Optimus's facial animations are getting even better.
Thank you. Yeah, when it shows them up close and it shows them sneaking, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of like crouched behind this rock. Wow, like, yeah, the animation of both Rat Trap and Optimus in this scene and the one that follows is like top tier out of the entire show so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're definitely
showing off with this one.
Yeah, they're definitely learning on the job, you know.
Yeah, and they're doing a good job, and
much like us with this podcast.
Yeah, you're goddamn right. Then Optimus is like, I'm going to cause a distraction and lead him away from here. You set up the demolitions. And
then Rat Trap is basically just like, man, and what if you get scrapped? I'm stuck up here, and it's a long way down.
Do you remember what Optimus says back to him?
No, I don't.
I don't plan on that happening, or something Optimus-y. And
no, I remember now. He was like, sure is.
Oh, really? I remembered it was something humorous.
I just remembered that, yeah. Rat Trap's just like if you get scrapped and I'm stuck here all by myself, it's a long way down. And Optimus is just like, sure is.
And then he he transforms and says, Optimus Primal, maximize, like loudly. I don't understand why they didn't just let Terrorsaur fly away, but maybe it's because they don't want him to just fly off to the maximal base and fuck them up.
Presumably, yes.
And so he kind of just rockets up in the air a bit, and then the Juice, kind of in his full form again, Terrorsaur, he turns around and he goes, Optimus! Yeah, I don't recall quite their exchange.
I don't either. Doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter. There's an exchange.
Optimus takes off in flight. Pterosaur chases after him.
This is interesting.
His shoulder
they're showing off. Yeah.
Yeah, his shoulder cannons pop up, and he's like all shooting at Optimus. Optimus is dodging every single one of his plasma missiles.
Dodging the plasma like missiles, and they're actually like missiles. They're not just like little photon blasts like usual.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because it's kind of like skill versus like training, and like skill versus like power. Mm-hmm. Optimus can't beat him, but like Optimus is also badass and like studious and tactical. And so he kind of does a few tricks. Like he kind of stops short behind a floating. It's underneath the island for everyone listening, and there's like other floating rocks nearby, some of them very large. And he kind of momentarily tricks Terrorsaur by going like behind one of these rocks and stopping short, and then like firing at him. And he does, and he hits Terrorsaur with the shoulder cannons, but it doesn't do anything.
And then we cut back to Rat Trap on the mountain, who transforms and immediately begins to short out. And
yeah, immediately.
And his internal computer is all like...
Also a sexy female computer voice.
Danger, Energon surge, stasis lock imminent, transform immediately. And he's all like, yeah.
Yeah. And man, it's interesting. He's the like demolitions engineer guy, and he always like, as long as he's prepared, even if he's not prepared, he always has like these little gadgets. And his left arm opens up.
Yeah, and his little like forearm thingies.
Yeah, his forearm holding things. We know that they're just meant for
forearms
holding. They're hollow. His forearms of holding. And one of the little pods open up, and he's got this like square explosive device, and he plucks it on a crystal. He taps his right forearm, and it opens up, and there's another explosive device, and he puts that on the other side. Explosive dice. Time to roll my dice.
He just throws like a D20 at an Energon crystal, and it explodes.
Well, speaking of exploding, go ahead.
He throws a D20 to an Energon crystal, and it ends up being a 1, and nothing happens.
Aww. In the World of Darkness, some of the systems for some of the games set in the World of Darkness, they use like a 10 again, and it's called like they explode. So what that means is if you roll 3 and 2 of them are 10s, you roll another 2. That's going to be like for 5 people, even though what the heck I'm talking about. But yeah, that's when they explode. So that made me think of that. That's an actual tabletop term. Anyways, folks, he does not have dice. He has device.
So is that like rolling doubles 3 times in Monopoly? I'm sorry.
Potentially better, because if you roll a 10 again, not only does it count as a success, but you get to roll again. So you can potentially roll for infinity as long as you keep rolling a 10.
So that is kind of like rolling doubles in Monopoly, except if you do it 3 times, you end up in jail.
Yeah, the odds of that happening seem small, but I've seen that happen so often.
Oh yeah, it's It's happened to me many times, which really like isn't particularly realistic because it's like, oh, you are lucking out and succeeding financially. Oh, you're lucking out and succeeding financially again. Oh, you're succeeding again. Okay, now you go to jail.
Yeah.
Clearly
You
something's
must be
wrong.
cheating.
Clearly something's wrong. You must be cheating. Time to go to jail.
Time to go to jail.
Slap the cuffs on him, boys.
And then you can
That
get
is
out
not
of
how
jail.
that is not how the real world works.
It should, though.
It should, yes.
And then you're like, oh, you can like pay a small fine to get out of jail, or you can try to roll doubles. And then your doubles luck is never there anymore.
No.
You used it all getting into jail.
Although I feel like the paying a fine to get out of jail, if you have already been established as a wealthy person, probably kind of realistic.
That's more accurate. Oh man, I hit someone with my car. I guess I should publicly apologize and I don't know, like pay a small fine.
Yeah. I should a public apology and pay $20 to each player.
Yeah, essentially. I'm looking at you, everybody who's hit somebody in a car that I can't think of right now. Anyways, but this isn't celebrity gossip.
Like that asshole who hit me 4 days after my birthday at the beginning of the year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was someone who bumped me when I was skateboarding. Speaking of a birthday, I think it was your birthday years ago, and I was skateboarding and somebody bumped me.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't my birthday, but I do remember this thing.
Yeah, it was an event to go hang out, and somebody bumped me, but it's not the bump that hurt, it's that the skateboard flew out from underneath me. I wiped pretty hard. And then I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go home and get my partner to drive me. And the person even stopped and was like, oh, holy shit, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, thanks for checking. And I like grabbed my board and hobbled home. But anyways, this isn't a skateboarding podcast. This is a Beast Wars podcast.
I will say, though, for this dude who hit me at the beginning of the year, 4 days after my birthday, which was January 7th, I was walking to work. I work, for the listeners, I work very early in the morning. Like, I'm usually walking to work at about 5:30 a.m. So I was crossing a, like, kind of rural side street. Wasn't like a main road or anything like that. But I was crossing. This guy in like a white car pulls up to the intersection and then just like turns right into me and like knocks me over. And I was like, and like when I fell down, I was like, dude, like what the fuck? He keeps driving for a little bit and then stops and yells out, sorry, you shouldn't be wearing black at night, and then speeds away.
Wow, makes it a bit to make himself feel better about fucking off and not stopping.
He fucking
that is
victim
such a-
blames.
Yeah.
He fucking victim blames.
I hate how common that shit is. Oh geez, I was clearly in the wrong. You shouldn't wear black at night. Fucks off before you can even like retort or man. Hate cowards like that. Like pull over and go, hey man, are you okay? And like, what do you want to do? And
yeah,
you want your dick sucked?
I remember.
Do you want to ride to work? Like something.
Like, yeah, right. Even that.
You shouldn't wear black at night, faggot.
And then he speeds off. Fuck you. Anyways,
I remember posting about this on Facebook, and like I said, this was 4 days after my birthday, so this was January 7th, right at the beginning of the year. I was like, "Wow, great start to 2020."
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know, right?
Little did you know.
Little did I know.
It was an omen. The guy hits you and then says you shouldn't wear black at night and speeds off.
And I'm like, oh.
That's a good, like, accurate omen of the entirety of 2020. Depending on what year you're listening to this, readers, right now it's September and we can't go outside because the air is toxic on the West Coast.
Oh yes, that's the latest thing is.
So before I
Yeah.
used to get exercise by getting the heck out of the apartment, and yes, in late summer of 2020, there was a fire that started in California, I believe, for a very important 2020 reason.
Because someone was having a gender reveal party and set off pyro.
They set off fucking like fireworks and pyrotechnics, and some of it went wrong. And oh, lo and behold, it's drought season in California. You're not allowed campfires. You're not allowed. You'll get charged up the ass if you throw a cigarette butt on the ground. But these
Yeah.
fucking assholes decided it's a great time to have like pyrotechnics in the color of, oh, geez, I don't know, blue.
Honestly, like,
It doesn't matter. It started a fire.
well, no, but like, honestly, that is the most like fucking America thing.
Yeah, but that's also to talk to you. You get hit, and then the guy yells, "You shouldn't be wearing black." That just like it's like these guys started the fire. Which again, by the way, we haven't. Well, if you have to walk to work, there's not much you can fucking do. But if you go and you check the toxicity levels online, you can literally Google the place where you live and say like air toxicity, and there's a rating of like 1, perfectly clean and great, to 10, like do not go outside. It's like 7 and 8 right now.
Well, yeah, I was reading a couple of days ago that Vancouver, which we don't live in, but we are very close to Vancouver.
Vancouver, BC.
Yeah, Vancouver, BC. Vancouver, BC has the worst air quality in the world right now.
In
the
Wow.
entire world.
How is that even possible? Wow. That's right.
Yeah.
I heard Vancouver's worse.
Yeah.
Like it's at like 10 plus.
Not just worse than us. Like the worst in literally the entire world.
And yeah, go Google when the sky was red in 2020.
And I read this
shit. To this.
I read this shit on Forbes, so like it's legit.
Wow. Take that, Beijing.
Right?
When people are like, haha, well, at least it can't get worse.
And
yeah, we can't go outside. You shouldn't go outside.
And 2020 is just like, hold my beer. Well, I still go outside.
Hold my beer.
Well, I still go outside, and
I mean,
I feel kind of dumb about this, but like every day for the past like week, or not week, but like maybe the past like 4 or 5 days, I've ended up with like a raging headache randomly. And I haven't really known why. And then a coworker of mine pointed out to me, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've had this awful headache." And I'm like, "Oh, well, like why?" And they're like, "Oh, it's because of the smoke."
Yeah.
and like it's a derp moment for me, but like it didn't even occur to me that the smoke was the root cause of these like sudden like raging fucking headaches that I've gotten every day for the past like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and there's it's bad.
Yeah,
like you got to do what you got to do because we got to pay rent, but like yeah, like that's why you're getting headaches, and if it keeps up much longer, like hopefully not, but like worse than headaches can happen.
maybe I will become a toxic crusader.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe if we look on the plus size,
on the plus size,
the plus side, maybe you'll develop like cool superpowers.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Smoke man.
Smoke man with the ability to smoke and cough and have headaches.
The cigarette smoking man. Anyway, Beast Wars.
Yes, which is why we're inside watching Beast Wars.
So yeah, Terrorsaur and Waspinator. Fuck. Terrorsaur and Optimus are flying around.
Yes. And
Terrorsaur is shooting his like jacked up shoulder cannons at Optimus. Optimus is outmaneuvering him at every turn, but Optimus stops for whatever reason, stops under this random like floating boulder.
Yeah, to get like the drop on him.
Yeah, and Terrorsaur is all like, ah, and then shoots a couple like plasma missiles.
Well, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, he does end up hitting Terrorsaur. He gets the drop on him somehow. But it doesn't do anything.
Probably.
that little maneuver where he like goes underneath or behind like a boulder. He gets the drop on Terrorsaur and he shoots him with his shoulder cannons, but it's not enough to hurt juiced up Terrorsaur. And that's when that's right, he still has eye lasers.
Yes.
Super fucking juiced up eye lasers. Damn.
but now his fucking eye lasers are purple.
Yeah, he's got purple, like big, thick, veiny eye lasers. And he shoots them right at Optimus, and Optimus cries out and plummets. And as he's like plummeting, he kind of like lands on like a little rocky outcropping. And it looks like Terrorsaur's gonna finish him off, but like it's just like the real thing. Like you start jonesing earlier and earlier, and it's not as good as the first hit. He's chasing that Energon elephant, and he immediately starts
chasing the Energon dragon,
or dragon, not elephant. Sometimes you mix up
the elephant in the room,
the dragon in the room, and you're chasing that elephant.
Yeah.
And so he's chasing the dragon in the room. And it's a very Ricky from Trailer Park Boys thing to say. I do that all the time. Much more articulate in written form, I assure you. So anyways, he starts jonesing and he's like, already? And he transforms into pterodactyl form again. And I think he says some quip like, oh, I'll finish you off later. And he like flies back to
he's like
again.
He's all like, well, worst case Ontario, I just go back to to Juice and Energon.
Worst case Ontario. I just got to go back to Juice and Energon, eh? And then he takes off and he's like, oh, I'll get you later, you hose head. We're teaching our Turkish listeners some of our Canadianisms.
Worst case Ontario, I just go back to selling dope is like my favorite Ricky quote from Trailer Park Boys.
It's an actual like great show, especially if you stick with it and you start to realize the inside jokes and the type of humor and the fact that they never break character.
And especially if you grew up as Canadian white trash.
I think it resonates more. Yeah, as someone who lived in a trailer park, I can. I may have been one of the bottle kids. Just saying.
Hey, no shame.
I mean, have you ever thrown like empty beer bottles at a wall? It's pretty sick. Anyways, he's like, worst case Ontario, I'm going back to juice up on Energon. And he flies off. And then it cuts to
me and my friends were always coming up with, especially when we were teenagers, we were always coming up with weird, very, very trailer park-esque schemes to come up with money, usually to get booze or drugs.
Of course.
Yeah.
Such is the way.
But like just some of the weird shit that we came up with was very like the antics that they get up to in Trailer Park Boys reminds me a lot of that time in my life.
As it should most people. At least most of the people I grew. Well, I mean, most of the people I grew up with were also in the trailer parks, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Beast Wars podcast, I swear. No, now we're a Trailer Park Boys podcast, eh? So grab your rum and coke and come sit down.
Oh, sorry, eh? We got to get back to them Beast Wars, yeah.
Okay, whatever, hoser. We got to get back to them there Beast Wars. So like shows Rat Trap, eh? And he's like waiting for who is he waiting for? He's waiting for Optimus. And he's like, "Oh, where are you, you big lug?"
Yeah, he's waiting for that big monkey guy, eh?
Oh, and then Tarantula Man shows up. He's just all here too. And he's like, "Oh, you're not getting away from me, eh?" And he's like, so this is a Bob and Doug McKenzie podcast now, eh? I guess, by the way, for everyone listening, this is the first time Christopher's heard my Canadian voice guy.
Holy shit. Oh, man. I wanted to just play along with that, but holy shit.
I
think
so you want to go for a rip, bud? And Rat Trap's like, "Oh, feel like going for a rip right now, but I'll bum a dart from you." And he's like, "Take off."
I think it was I think it was Tarantula Man. That really just fucking killed me.
I thought that would be funnier than Spider-Man.
Oh.
He's alive, everyone. I caught him very unawares.
This is listeners, this is genuine Christopher laughter, which not a lot of people hear. So
no, Christopher is usually a tough nut to crack, unless it's something that he recalls being funny and like he's telling a story and he's laughing at it. But every once in a while,
yes,
I find it.
If I'm laughing at my own jokes, then
a chink in his armor, and I dig the dagger in deep, and I immobilize him for a couple minutes.
Oh, like years ago, the whole like piss in the fucking fence thing. I'm not even going to explain that to the listeners.
No, that had a few of us dead for an hour, for a year, really. Tarantula Man.
Where the
He's
hell?
like, "Oh, you're not getting out of here, eh? Take off." And Rat Trap's like, "No, you take off." And they fight in their animal form.
Yep.
And you think Tarantulas would have him here, eh? But Rat Trap, he's wily. He's frisky. He's full of vitamin soup.
Honestly, as someone who is an arachnophobic, like the way Tarantulas moves around in this scene,
it's creepy.
Yeah, it was.
It's kind of scary.
Like way more. Again, like as we've been saying, like the animators are getting better as the show goes. Like
this fight's only 20 seconds, but it is. Mwah.
The spider animations, like the animation of tarantulas moving around and and even just walking. Like
it's
I said, it is spider-like, and as an arachnophobic, it's actually like kind of creeping me out to watch
and
it.
They're animating him more spider-like, which is creepy and scary.
Mm-hmm.
However, as we have learned in the game of like rock, paper, Maximal,
yep,
Cheetor always gets Scorponok, especially when he's shooting randomly. And Rat Trap always gets Tarantulas. And Rhinox always gets Waspinator. And sometimes the Flyers get Optimus. But in this case, Tarantulas like spider jumps and lands right on top of Rat Trap.
Oh, but who gets the double, eh?
Oh, let me tell you, Rat Trap here, he gives him a run. He takes him out back, eh? And he's like, I told you I don't have any darts. Take off. And and Tarantulas is on his back, seemingly going to sink his fangs into his neck. And he kind of rat scrambles. Like his legs just kind of like furiously like slipping around. And then he gains traction and he runs. And Tarantulas is on his back. And coincidentally, there just happens to be like a little Inukshuk, eh? With like rocks piled up. And there's a little like rock formation with space underneath, and he scurries full speed as he can underneath it.
Oh, that's a small enough space to slip a puck through the goalie's knees. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he slips through that, eh? Right. Perfect Gretzky moment right here. And he.
Yeah, you miss all the shots you don't take, eh?
Yeah, you miss all the spiders you don't ride, eh? And he, this is where the scariness of Tarantulas, Tarantula Man, disappears, because when Tarantulas slams into the top of this thing, the top of this rocky outcrop that Rat Trap scurries under, it's very comical.
That big pile of stones, eh?
That big pile of stones, the Inukshuk pointing north. He slams into it, and like a cartoon,
floating up there in the fucking air, like a don't give a fuck about anything, yeah.
Oh, and even though they look like small rocks, like he hits it like full solid, like right on, and his like legs splay out, and he's all like comically like. I swear, there's even a cartoon sound that's like boing, like a push, like a little Acme Roadrunner like sound of him like hitting the rocks, and his legs all splay out.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, they definitely do that in this show many times. Like, just comical, like, over the top, cartoony sound effects. Yes,
and I love it. And Rat Trap turns and he's like, I don't got time to tango with you today, Tarantula Man. And he begins to just walk away as if he just won the battle. And then apparently Tarantulas can do this. Tarantulas jumps like 40 feet and lands in front of Rat Trap. And he goes, oh, you're not going anywhere, eh? We're gonna throw some fists. Have at ye. And he jumps at him to like fight him. He kind of tries to bite him here or there. And Rat Trap does like a little like rat boxing combo to the thorax of Tarantulas. And there's like little like punching sound effects as he goes like like punches him like 10 times, and I'm like, holy shit, go Rat Trap.
Oh, he's really gonna end up in the penalty box for that one.
Oh yeah, gloves off and everything.
Oh yeah, like at least 2 fucking minutes.
Oh, but do you remember how Rat Trap beats Tarantula Man? He beats him somehow, right? Is it Optimus? Does Optimus just show up? No.
No, the bomb goes off.
Oh, right.
Okay, so before I started dying of laughter, like almost literally dying of laughter, one thing I was going to point out was like when he puts the charges on the Energon crystals, he puts them right beside one another.
Yeah, he doesn't spread them out.
Yeah, like to me it would, like I would think it would make more sense to put like one at one point and one like, I don't know, at least on like the other side of the mountain.
Kind of like in a big pit. Yeah, like spread them out.
Yeah, or at least on like the opposite side of like the cluster.
They're not even 5 feet away from each other.
Yeah, no, not even. They're like a foot away from one another.
So Terrorsaur lands and he's like, time for the juice. And he sees the bombs and he goes, oh no.
His face in this moment is hilarious to me. He's like, he makes this like weird sound. And like his raptor beak like opens up and his tongue extends out.
Oh, yeah, it does. Like I said, they have fun with. They're getting better at animating their expressions for sure. And he takes off and he goes, "No, my source of power!" And then everything starts to explode, and Tarantulas kind of is like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Where
When they were wrestling,
where where am I gonna find another dealer on this planet?
"Rah!" and I forgot. Rat Trap is fighting
So you were
Tarantulas.
huffing Energon with your pals on a floating mountain the other day.
So where you're huffing Energon with your pals on the floating mountain the other day, and Buddy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I got a problem with your face." So
This is now a
Jesus,
Letterkenny podcast.
this is now Letterkenny and Bob and Doug McKenzie. Wow, there's some ancient Canadiana for the listeners.
Oh,
Bob and Doug McKenzie.
mix of old and new, right?
Yeah, little old, little new. Sorry, Rat Trap does beat Tarantulas. He kind of like kicks him off the edge, or oh, sorry, Tarantulas is like, "Time to end it, vermin," and he's like, "I have you outclassed. I'm better than you." And he's like, "That may be."
Oh,
And
yeah,
he kicks
he was like,
mud
I am
or
your
dirt.
superior.
Yeah, and it must be infuriating for Tarantulas, because he must feel like he's smarter and a more deadly form than Rat Trap. But Rat Trap has never been afraid of Tarantulas, and he's always kicked his ass, right? And he says something like smarmy as Tarantulas is coming at him, and he kicks like dirt in his face, and he goes, "Ah!" and he continues charging, and then Rat Trap just jumps out of the way,
Yeah,
and
he picks up
Tarantulas
like a
just
big
falls
thing
off
of
the
mud and throws it at him.
yeah, and Tarantulas just flies off of the island and goes "Ah!" and like hits. Same thing with Optimus. He like hits a bunch of like rocks on the
And
way down.
Megatron. They've done that sight gag, or not even. It's not even really a gag, but they've done that sight bit 3 times in this episode now. They did it with Megatron, did it with Optimus. Now they're doing it with Tarantulas again, a character hitting rocks on their way down from a fall.
Oh yeah, they have done it 3 times, and it's cool. It looks cool.
Well,
And he's like hitting rocks and on his way down, falling.
Well, and I feel like it must have been something the animators had just figured out how to do.
And they want to show off.
Yeah.
Look what we can do. And he falls, and then the explosions are they're starting to go. He's like, "Oh, Optimus, blah blah blah." I can't quite remember what he says, but he's kind of like, "You're leaving me here? That means you must have gotten scrapped."
Yeah, and Rat Trap is like, well, at least I'm gonna go out with a bang.
Yep.
And then Optimus just shows up out of nowhere, climbing up from the cliffside directly in front of Rat Trap. And
Coincidentally.
Is all like, the only place we're going is home. And Rat Trap is like, "Hoo-hoo, fearless leader, I thought you were scrap."
Yeah.
And Optimus is like, "Well, we'll both be if we don't get off of this mountain." And he's like, "Climb on my back, quick."
And Rat Trap's like, what?
So he jumps on, and then he's like, "Make like a Boyd."
Make like a Boyd, yeah.
And Optimus is like, "Can't."
No can do.
Yeah, can't. The Energon would just fry my circuits permanently. Just
Yeah,
hold
because he
on.
was just transformed, I guess.
Yeah.
Just hold on.
And Rat
This is
Trap
a pretty
is like,
fucking epic moment.
Rat Trap is just like, "Oh, don't tell me you're gonna." And Optimus starts charging forward and leaps off the side, and it goes into slow motion. And Rat Trap's just like, "Chia." As like the two of them are just like in slow motion sailing down from this exploding mountain.
And as the mountain explodes, a little bit before it completely explodes, it shows Tarantulas using his like web to like flee from the floating mountain.
To basically zip line down. Yeah.
To tarantula man down. And it shows Terrorsaur flying away some time ago. So it's kind of implying that everybody is getting the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
And they're jumping in slow motion, and there's like pink shock waves, and the sky is blue, and there are palm tree 3D like 90s rendered palm trees. And my partner looks at me and she's like, "This is like the most vaporwave thing I've ever seen. Like the pink shock waves, the 90s 3D like palm trees, the pink and blue aesthetic." I was like,
Yeah.
"It is. It's a cool shot."
Yeah, it's great. Love
And
it.
the user, wow, okay, this is reboot. The viewer,
You're already ready for that reboot podcast.
yeah, I'm Ready Player 2. And and you're like, "Oh geez, what's going to happen here?" Let us not forget that Optimus is a super jacked gorilla.
Yeah.
Normally nobody should survive this. And so they fall in the jungle, and it's presumed that like, because it kind of like cuts to them falling into it, but then it cuts to them holding onto a branch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did he just grab onto this like sturdy like branch with his like 800-pound like gorilla like arms, or did they crash through branches and he caught this one?
Which realistically, I feel like if he had come like just shooting down like an 800-pound bullet and decided like, oh, I'm just going to grab a branch, like I feel like the velocity that he was traveling at would have resulted in him just snapping the branch.
Well, yeah, because he's accelerating as he's falling, and he picked up speed to jump off the island. I wouldn't recommend traveling laterally, like horizontally, too, because you're adding that to the momentum, the mass of the falling object that is a giant gorilla.
Yet another thing when you're 10 years old you don't think about.
No, but he's not a real gorilla. He's just a super jacked robot, and it didn't break. I like to think that like they crashed on some branches on the way down, and then he caught that one. But who knows? And there's a tender. Yeah, anyway, there's a tender moment here because he's like, "Rat Trap, could you take some weight off my shoulders, or take some weight off?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." And he crawls off, and they're both like hanging on to this branch.
Yeah,
and
he's all like in a very like annoyed father kind of way. He's all like, "You mind taking some weight off my shoulders?"
Yep. And Rat Trap is like, "Oh yeah," and crawls off. And they have it onto this like the most powerful branch on the planet, and they have kind of a heartwarming exchange.
Yeah, Rat Trap is all like, "You do know that was crazy," and Optimus says a line here, which he will perhaps repeat again in the
Sometimes
series.
Crazy works.
Sometimes crazy works.
Yeah. And he kind of smiles, and Rat Trap kind of like smiles back. Again, their faces are more animated in these, like they look less uncanny valley. So when they smile at each other, you're like, "Ah." And then Optimus says to him, "Hey, good work up there, by the way." And Rat Trap says to him, "Hey, you weren't so bad yourself. But don't tell anyone I told you so."
And then it plays some like flute type music, and then we cut back to Terrorsaur, who is flying toward the dark side, and he's all like, "Blasted Maximals, they destroyed my power," which I just find it funny.
Did.
Yeah, he's basically like, "God damn it, those assholes got rid of my stash."
One thing I noticed is it was considerably less time before he needed to to juice again the last time. So I
Yeah.
wonder if it's diminishing returns, or he spent a lot of energy fighting Optimus in that air battle.
Could be. I mean,
both.
really, like that is how drugs kind of work.
They're diminishing returns
Oh,
as you chase that
absolutely.
elephant out of the room.
As you chase that elephant out of as you chase that elephant while you address the dragon in the room.
Yeah, that's my journalism moment.
Your legitimate journalism.
Yeah.
Um,
This part's hilarious. Yeah, when he goes back to base.
Yeah, so Terrorsaur is flying back to base, and he's like, "But at least I got rid of Megatron." And he lands in his fucking dainty ass pterodactyl form.
I love his
So he just
big ass
lands.
pterodactyl form.
He's like just standing there, and
Out of the shadows.
out of the shadows, we see a stomping robot form Megatron emerge, being like, well, look who's back. And his voice echoes when he says that. And it goes back to Terrorsaur, who's like, and then just turns gray.
Oh, yeah, look who's back. And
Yeah.
he says it with such hatred in his eyes and his voice.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna fucking like destroy him. If like now, like he is pissed. Like he doesn't really say it comically. He says it with like extreme malice. And Terrorsaur opens his mouth, sticks out his tongue, and actually turns white like a ghost.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, and he says help.
Oh yeah, he goes help.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was Power Surge. Do you have any closing thoughts for the episode?
I feel like this is the best animated the episode so far, and I feel like wow, they've gotten really good at combat. Like the air combat, I was like, oh, another like air fight where people just fly like Superman and shoot shoulder cannons at each other. No, that was interesting. It's like watching Tom Cruise out there. And the fight between Rat Trap and Tarantulas, because they can't transform into their robot form, was actually really well done too.
I think Tom Cruise would play in a Beast Wars movie.
You would, oh man, it would be like a Transformers knockoff, but instead of Shia LaBeouf, it's Tom Cruise. I would watch that.
No, but like, imagine there was a Beast Wars movie, like a big budget movie based on this.
That's what I mean. Instead of
following this like
Transformers, it's
basic plot
Beast
line.
Wars.
And
Oh, you mean no humans? You mean actual?
no humans at all. Like if Tom Cruise was going to be like the mocap for one of the Transformers in this show, who would he be?
Oh, who would he be? Optimus or he doesn't have a. Would his voice be the character too?
Yeah.
Okay. That's hard.
It is.
Because he doesn't really have like an Optimus like voice. Maybe Cheetor. He likes going fast, right?
I think he's too old for that character.
Yeah, but he's just doing the mocap and the voice for it. Right?
Yeah, but he definitely doesn't sound like a young person anymore.
What about Rhinox?
That was actually who I was thinking, honestly.
Oh, were you thinking Rhinox?
Yeah. I think he could be the Rhinox of the group. Like, but if Rhinox was a little more involved in the action.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh, I can't see him taking a Rhinox role. You know what? We should brainstorm just on our own like free time who we think would play the voice and the mocap for the Predacons and the The Maximals?
Oh yeah, fan cast the all of the characters in a hypothetical Beast Wars movie. I'm down
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, we could come up with something better than wondering who specifically Tom Cruise would be if he had to be in the Beast Wars movie.
In a movie that he would never be in anyway.
I wouldn't cast him in it anyway.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be in it, definitely not, but it's humorous to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll think about that. And we'll talk about it on next week's podcast.
Yeah.
Speaking of next week's podcast, we will be reviewing A Better Mousetrap, which was the
Ooh, I remember
episode.
this.
Yes.
I haven't seen it in 20 years, more than 20 years, but I actually do remember this one.
It's an important episode. It is the 9th episode in production order, and lay fucking gasp, it is actually also the 9th episode in broadcast order.
What?
Can you imagine?
I am shocked.
So yeah, we will be back next week with that. We got to get out of here tonight, so it's getting pretty late.
Christopher, where can people creep us?
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/toomuchenergon. You can send us an email at toomuchenergon@outlook.com. We're still holding out for an email from an actual listener and not just, fucking Bobo.
Gonna send us hate mail after he doesn't hear this one.
Right. Until next week, I have been one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
I am your other host, NeoCal.
Beast mode.
Beast mode.
Beast mode!